You know, the greatest strategic failure in high-ticket sales is what I call the explanation trap. It's this belief that you absolutely have to explain how your product works to justify its price. But we're completely ignoring a crucial neurological fact. Complexity is the ultimate conversion killer. We're all taught that showing off the intricate, brilliant inner workings of our product builds value. But what if that detailed proposal, that giant list of features, is the very thing causing your best prospects to freeze and say those deal-killing words, "I need to think about it"? That's the exact paradox we are going to solve today.
Okay, let's really sink our teeth into this, because this idea is the foundation for everything else we're about to cover. Think about the last time you were on the receiving end of a really long, complicated sales pitch, maybe for some new software or a complex service. So how did you feel? A little overwhelmed, maybe even a bit confused? Well, that's not an accident. That's your brain's defense mechanism kicking in. See, the human brain is wired to conserve energy, so every single feature, every technical detail you throw out there is another thing their brain has to process, categorize, and check for risk, and that is metabolically expensive. It is literally exhausting. We think we're building a strong case, but what we're really doing is just building a heavy burden.
And this right here, this gets to the absolute heart of that conflict. It's a massive disconnect. On the left, you've got the seller's myth. Hey, if I just explain one more feature, if I can just show them how elegant our backend is, then they'll get it. Then the price will finally make sense. We've all been there, right? We're proud of what we've built. But then, look at the right side. This is the buyer's neurological reality. More explanation doesn't create more clarity. It just leads to confusion and ultimately paralysis. It's like a cognitive tax. And when you're faced with a high tax, what's the easiest thing to do? Avoid it. Do nothing.
And there's actually a scientific term for that feeling: decision paralysis. It's so important to understand this isn't about your buyer being difficult. It's a biological defense mechanism that's hardwired into all of us for survival. When our brain gets overwhelmed with too many data points, it just can't build a clear picture of risk versus reward. So it defaults to the path of least resistance, which is always inaction. It saves energy. So when a prospect says, "I'll get back to you," what their brain is really saying is, "You've made this too hard for me to process." You didn't lose the sale on price, you lost it because you made the decision itself feel like a ton of work.
So, knowing this is the problem, how do we actually design our offer to avoid it? How do we fix this? Well, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We've just touched on the core problem, the explanation trap. Next, we're going to unveil the solution, a system I call the Outcome-Abstraction Loop. Then, we'll get into the fascinating behavioral science that makes it work, in the psychology of simplicity. After that, we'll move from theory to practice with your compression framework. And finally, we'll land on the ultimate takeaway, selling the simple yes.
So let's start by going a little deeper into the explanation trap. Remember that feeling of being overwhelmed we just talked about? That's what we're dissecting here. It's absolutely crucial to get why your well-intentioned, super detailed presentation is actively working against the very decision you want the buyer to make. And it all comes down to understanding the two different operating systems of the human brain and making sure your pitch is talking to the right one.
This beautifully illustrates the two paths a sales conversation can take inside your buyer's head. When you lead with features and technical details, what we call a manual first pitch, you force the buyer into what Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman calls System 2 thinking. This is the brain's slow, conscious, analytical mode. It's the part you use for doing long division or trying to parallel park a car. It's powerful, sure, but it's also lazy, effortful, and its main job is to find flaws and calculate risk. So when a buyer is in System 2, they're actively looking for a reason to say no. A compressed offer, on the other hand, is designed to appeal to System 1 thinking, the fast, intuitive gut feel part of the brain that makes most of our daily decisions. System 1 feels easy, it feels confident. Our entire goal with offer compression is to keep the buyer comfortably in System 1.
So here's the bottom line for this section. Your product's long, impressive list of features, it isn't perceived by the buyer as a list of benefits. It is subconsciously translated into a to-do list. Every single feature represents work they'll have to do. Work to learn it, work to implement it, work to manage it. The more you explain the how, the heavier that burden of ownership feels. You are accidentally selling them a new job, and nobody wants to buy a new job. They want to buy an outcome.
All right, now that we've really diagnosed the problem, let's talk about the solution. This is where we pivot. The solution is a system, a repeatable process called the Outcome-Abstraction Loop. Think of it as the blueprint for getting around the explanation trap. It's a method for taking all that technical magic you've built and distilling it down into a single, powerful aha moment for the buyer. They get all the value without ever paying the complexity penalty with their attention. This loop works in 3 very distinct stages. First, we distill the primary outcome. This is all about having a fanatical focus on the single most important result your customer is actually buying. Second, we create a black box mechanism. This is the magic step, where we take all that complexity you're so proud of and we elegantly hide it from view. And third, we frame the whole thing as a turnkey solution, which is designed to remove any perception of effort or work. Let's break each of these down.
Now, stage 1 is probably the most critical strategic shift you'll make. You have to stop selling your product and start selling the destination it gets them to. You have to identify the one transformed state your customer really wants. They're not buying your accounting software, they're buying financial peace of mind. The rule here, and it's a bit radical, is that about 90% of your product's features need to be ruthlessly cut from your sales pitch. They don't disappear, they just move into onboarding and support, where they belong. From this point on, your offer isn't about the tool, it's exclusively about the result.
Now, look at this. This is what most pitches for a complex product look and sound like. It's a wall of technical jargon. AI-driven multivariate regression analysis, asynchronous task processing queue. Just as I read those, can you feel your brain starting to work a little harder? You're trying to figure out what they even mean, how they connect. This is a textbook manual first pitch that immediately triggers that slow critical system 2 thinking and just slams the brakes on the sale. It screams complexity, effort, and risk.
Okay, now for stage 2. We take all of that intimidating jargon from that last slide and we do something that feels a little counterintuitive at first, but it's incredibly powerful. We hide it. We put all of that complexity inside what we call a black box mechanism. This mechanism is just a simple, proprietary name that stands in for all the messy technical stuff. It abstracts away the how so the customer can focus completely on the what, which is the outcome they actually care about.
And this is what comes out of that black box. Instead of that entire laundry list of technical features, you now have one simple, powerful, and proprietary concept, the intent engine. See how brilliant that is? The name implies what it does. It understands intent, without explaining a single detail of how it does it. It transforms a confusing list of parts into a single, understandable machine. Your prospect now has just one concept to grasp, not a dozen. And that provides an immense amount of psychological relief. And this quote just nails it. It perfectly captures the shift in the buyer's responsibility. Their job is no longer to be a technical auditor of your entire system. Their job is simply to decide if they trust that this thing, the intent engine, can actually deliver the peace of mind you promised them in stage 1. You've shifted the conversation from one of technical validation to one of trust in a single, elegant solution. That is the essence of abstraction, and it is the key to sales velocity.
So we've established the what and the how. But why is this system so incredibly effective? To get that, we need to dive into the psychology. Offer compression isn't just some clever messaging trick. It works because it leverages deep-seated cognitive biases that govern all of our decisions. We're not trying to fight human nature here. We're designing our offer to align perfectly with how the brain already wants to work.
The big idea here is something called cognitive ease. Think of it as a measure of how much mental effort it takes to process information. When something is simple and clear, like the intent engine, our brains experience high cognitive ease. And that state feels good. We subconsciously associate that feeling of ease with positive things like safety, truth, and confidence. A complex offer creates cognitive strain. A simple offer creates cognitive ease. Your job is to be the source of ease in a world of strain. And building on that is a specific mental shortcut called the Fluency Heuristic. A heuristic is just a rule of thumb the brain uses to make quick judgments. And the Fluency Heuristic's rule is simple. If this is easy for me to process, it must be good, true, and valuable. Your brain doesn't consciously make this calculation. It's an automatic, System 1 thing. So when your offer is compressed, it's highly fluent, it's easy to process. Therefore, the buyer's brain automatically and subconsciously assigns it a higher value and more trust than that complicated list of features we saw earlier.
And this really shows you the real-world impact. On the left, you've got that complex offer, full of jargon. It creates cognitive strain, which triggers that critical risk-averse brain. And the result? The buyer feels at best about 35% certain. There's doubt, there's friction. But on the right, when you compress that exact same offer into a simple concept, look what happens. Perceived trust skyrockets. It feels safe, it feels certain, it feels right. And notice, the underlying product hasn't changed at all, only the way it's presented to the brain. Simplicity isn't just an aesthetic choice, it is the most powerful way you can deliver value.
Okay, so we've covered the why and the what. We get the problem, we get the psychology.
Now, let's get practical and translate all this into an actionable framework. This is how you move from theory to application and start mastering offer compression for your own business. This is your path to closing more deals faster.
Here are 3 concrete steps you can take starting today. First, execute the Feature-to-Freedom Audit. For every single feature your product has, you have to ask, what freedom does this give the customer? Is it freedom from worry? Freedom from manual work? You have to lead with that freedom, not the feature. Second, you have to relentlessly apply the rule of 1. Condense your entire offer to 1 primary outcome, 1 black box mechanism, and 1 clear price. And finally, name your compressed mechanism. Give your unique process a proprietary name that implies a transformation, just like the intent engine.
So I want you to just pause and really think about this for a second. Look past all the features, all the lines of code, all the deliverables. What is the one single emotional or professional state of transformation that your customer is actually purchasing? Is it certainty? Is it status? Is it getting 10 hours of their week back? This question is the starting point for your entire compression strategy. If you can't answer it in 1 or 2 powerful words, you haven't distilled it enough. This is your homework.
All right, let's land the plane. We've covered the explanation trap, the outcome-abstraction loop, the behavioral science, and the practical framework. Now, let's bring it all together into the single most important insight of this entire explainer. This is the core belief that should change how you think about marketing and sales forever. And here it is. In a world of infinite information and overwhelming complexity, your greatest value isn't in your product's features. It is in your ability to make the decision to buy it, feel simple, safe, and effortless. You're not a vendor of a tool. You are a provider of a decision shortcut. By isolating that primary outcome and hiding all the complexity inside a trusted proprietary mechanism, you are doing the hard cognitive work for the buyer. And that is what they are truly paying you for: the relief, the clarity, and the confidence of a simple choice.
And we'll end on this final thought. The old model of sales was about friction, pushing people through complicated steps, but the future belongs to those who create pull. And the strongest magnetic pull you can possibly create in a noisy world is simplicity. When you make the choice simple, you don't have to sell so hard. The yes just becomes the path of least resistance. It becomes inevitable.